our health services aren't enough for what we need them to be. The basic core fundamentals of this community is framed. So under the current representation we've had for some time now, things are also people are put to be independent, and they've seen that actually what they're doing in their communities is off the charts. For example, the stakeholder report is 300% in granting grants, big infrastructure grants, small grants to her community consistently every year since she's been in Parliament, compared to when she was part of representative. So, and some people here will remember when we were both in Port Macquarie, a lot more came to this region. People have fed up, people have had enough, sick politics as usual, they actually want grassroots democracy back, and having independent on the prospect representatives is the best possible way for us to achieve that as a community.
The next speaker will be Zeke. We're going to the mic for we're going to come all the way along back to Chris on the end, because by then we will probably be here. That's our plan. Thank you, Zeke. Your 3 minutes starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zeke Daley. You probably haven't heard of me since my budget is pretty low. Just my family. I'm 18, so I'm actually the youngest that could possibly get to enter. It's been quite difficult as I'm juggling search for an IT as well as a part-time job. And it's really been an interesting experience. I decided to run because I've seen how people my age aren't interested in politics at all and don't understand it. And so I wanted to raise awareness and just introduce more diversity for everyone.
Now, the next speaker will be Geoff. Same thing as we've been working on. And you'll notice I'm not mentioning their parties. I'm allowing them to do that. It keeps me completely distant from any party politics.
Hi, I'm Geoff Marlow. I'm here on behalf of Fusion. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you everyone for turning up tonight. It's really great to start being able to get back into the community again. Look, I've not been a career politician. I've been a man of the people for my entire career. I've been a chef, I've worked NBN, I've done these blue collar jobs, I've spoken to these blue collar people, I've lived the blue collar life. Right? I aim to be the voice for the blue collar everyday person back in Parliament, back into politics. We have for too long not been heard. Our voice goes up there and gets shouted down by these large corporations with huge pockets behind them. And it's time that we as a nation decided that we need more independence. As my colleague here, Caz, has actually said, there's a lot more support for the independents and for the smaller parties at the moment because we don't have those huge pockets. We're not interested in lining our own. We're interested in helping everybody. We want to see everybody in the house. We want to see everybody with education. There's no way to do that if we're fighting for ourselves every day, every week. At Fusion, we focus on evidence and scientific research-backed policies and procedures, and we aim to create a clear and transparent government for everybody. There shouldn't be any hiding away, there shouldn't be any secretive deals under the table. We should all know what's going on in our own country. The time has come that us as the people take a stand. Let's bring power back to the people, guys. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Vigors. I've got to say, it's got to be on the right side of the magistrate's bench. I represent Labor, and the reason I represent Labor is because I think Labor is the party so because I was born in Sydney, but I've lived here for 35 years. My children and grandchildren were all born here. I've worked for, some of you might be old enough to remember the Yellow Pages, worked for the Yellow Pages for many years, and then worked and had a career change. And I worked in the disability field for 5 years. I worked as the regional manager for North Disability Services, worked for 10 years for for Commonwealth Rehab and for your money for debt, and then worked for the government for some time. So I've got a pretty broad experience over those different sides of things. I know Caz Heise, not backed by the big being backed by the big industry. Well, we have all Caz billboards around the side. She's got a fair bit of backing on the state. And we're running on a shoestring here in Cowper because we need to get the right message out. We need to get the right message about changing what's actually happening. Changing what's happening in Cowper because for over 60 years, you've had one party in that's represented you here, and sort of we've gone backwards. And I think it's really emblematic to think that their local member couldn't even turn up tonight. I think hasn't been to pretty much anything that I've been one thing. So I think we need more, and that's what a local member should be, and that's why I want to be a local member. I agree with Caz about getting good things to the community and getting for elected. What Caz didn't mention was all those things that if they got were because there was legislation passed by the Labor Party to actually fund those things. She didn't just step it herself, she had to actually get the fund, or the Labor Party had those programs, put them in place, and then as a good local member, and I'm sure she is, she actually applied for those different grants and got those grants. So that's what we should have here, a member that actually looks after the local community, a member that votes the way that the local community wants it to vote, and a member that actually will like stand up and say, no, I don't agree with that. Now, I'm not a career politician, so I'm in a lucky situation because I've got the ability to be in the tent, to actually be within the Labor government and actually getting things done for the local community, but still having the opportunity to say, no, I don't agree with that and vote against Labor if I actually need to. So it's about making sure that you have somebody who's in government and who's working for you. That's how changes are made. And so that's why I'd like you to consider who you're voting for in this coming election. The main thing I would say is that whichever way you vote, we need to change. I think that no matter what happens, we need to actually change what's happening. We need to change what's happening in Cowper. And the best way to change that is by having somebody from your electorate who's in government making those changes for you.
Perfect timing. Wendy is now arrived. We've got the mic right up here on the end. There you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Walsh. This is my hometown. I remember this place when it was supported and that it was active and working. I grew up here. AFC was our school playground, believe it or not, in Main Street. My mum and dad grew here, had 12 kids. I'm number 10 in that line, and spent many years in my life here working in the building trade, landscaping, enjoying life in Poplar as it was a little fishing village then. I'm married now with 2 kids, 2 grandkids, which I love very much. It's a good part of your life when it comes to that, as grandparents know. I then moved to Kempsey, where I worked in the school for 17 years as a groundsman and also the campus manager and building project manager. I enjoyed that time as well with the kids, teaching and learning, going on many different outings. I've been to Nepal with them on 6 trips where we took our Year 12 for their end of year trips. Been to Fiji with the Year 11s and Fraser Island with the Year 10s on many excursions. Great experience school is in that way. I've always been a member of One Nation and enjoyed what Pauline had to say for this country. Always put the people in this country first and the interests of this country. And I think as I stand here tonight, this country needs big changes, and I'm going to stand and fight for that, for this country, for this town, and for this electorate. And I'm grateful for One Nation for the chance to do that. Thank you.
G'day everyone, thanks for coming. Sorry I'm late. I was handing out power votes and putting clues all down our region. Is that what grassroots democracy looks like? Yeah, so we're here on Verifying Land, and this is stolen land. If we didn't continue to dominate land, culture, and its people, we wouldn't end up in the mess we're in today. I've been married for 15 years. I'm a single mum of 2, and my family fell apart due to domestic violence. At present, 1 in 4 women are experiencing domestic violence, and 101 women died last year. And we need to start taking this issue seriously, because how many women have to die before we do? I have worked in social work for 15 years. I worked in homelessness, mental health, drug and alcohol rehab, aged care. I know the divide between the rich and the poor, and I know the people that get left behind. The current major parties are funding, and their policies and laws are protecting big corporations to get richer. They haven't designed for the people. They make little policies to look like they're doing something, but they're really not. I've fought for the environment for over 10 years in forests and in the blueberry industry, working with communities of the poisons that are being used and our waterways that are getting poisoned. I'm furious that the NACs allow this industry to expand when it's not even regulated properly. I started this 8 years ago. Last year I was in Member Council saying the same thing, giving all the evidence that we've found. So Greens policies are designed to create real change for everybody, and we need to remember this is a policy competition. If 80% of our media wasn't owned by one corporation, the Greens wouldn't have the stigma and the bullying that we have faced over decades. So we need to put that aside this election, and if you really want to vote for change and acknowledge the work that Greens have been doing, fighting for each and every one of you, we need to put Greens in the Senate to keep the bastards honest, and we need to put 1 Green, 2 Caz to create change. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the candidates for their introduction. And we're going to start, as Greg mentioned earlier, at this end with the questions. I was just thinking, I'm not from this area, and I was just thinking, how fortunate is this electorate to have so many candidates to choose from? Now, Greg, you've got some questions organised?
Yeah, we do.
We're going to start the questions. Now, reminder, please be specific when you ask the question. Each candidate's going to have 1 minute to answer. After 1 minute, the bell will ring again, and the candidate needs to wind up, so the next candidate has an opportunity to answer the question. First question, please.
Just before we get there, I forgot to give you apologies. Megan from the Legalised Cannabis Party was coming tonight, but she took ill today, so she sends her apologies. I did invite Pat Conahan, who's the first candidate I invited, and I gave him a choice today because I know how difficult they find it is to get to these things. So he said he was probably booked, so he sends his apologies too. So on to our first question, which is from Mel. You want to read it from here? Okay. Now, when we call on you to read the question, either stand up and read loudly so everyone can hear you, or come down to the front and hand to the mic.
We'll see how I go. All right. Even though countries around the world are dealing with cost of living driven by global factors, some say it's caused by our current government. Do you agree it's a global problem?
Did everyone hear that question? Very good. Well done.
Thanks, Carl. I'm constantly in a minute. I'm going to read some stuff because I want to make sure I got it down. Yes, there's a global problem. All countries have felt it. But the Albanese government's actually put into place various policies which have actually lessened the effect on Australia. Australia's rank has, I think, 2 in the world as far as how they've handled the various economic woes that we've had over the last few years. We've done things like energy bill relief, tax cuts for everybody, not just for the rich. Inflation was way up in 2022, it was at 6.5%. It's now down to 2%. They were going up when the Morrison government, economic environment where the Reserve Bank is which is very good for every Australian. Global factors have an impact on all of this as well. Cracking down on price gouging from supermarkets, investing in Medicare and TBS medicine, so no PBS script will be over $25, and we're hoping that we'll put through a policy where 90% of people will be bulk filled by their GPs. Investing and cheap childcare, so yeah, it's global factors, but you've got to work on it within the nation as well.
Very good. I same thing. We're going to have a long time to make sure we're right points down. Look, I absolutely agree. Housing is a global supply issue. So how are we going to tackle it? It's not going to be a single pronged approach. We're going to have to tackle this at every avenue. What we need to look at first, I believe, is increasing our supply. Currently, we don't have enough supply to cover the demand. We hear a lot on the news at the moment about immigration being the main cause of our shortage of houses. And look, let's face it, immigration is one of the reasons. It's not the only reason. If we can bring manufacturing back to our country and start looking at avenues like modular housing, some of these prefab houses that are being made just up the coast here, we can look at implementing some of these and increasing our social housing to 10% rather than 2.8% we are at the moment. We need to provide an avenue for everybody to have a house, because at the moment, housing is a privilege. It shouldn't be reserved for those few. It should be for everybody. Each and every one of you deserves the right to have a house. I'll pass on. Thank you.
Climate change and pandemic have stagnated the production, and that is driving up costs. We're all interconnected, and so what happens in one country affects other countries. However, while it's no problem, there are things that the government can do. Like take a look at Scandinavian countries, like something with cost of living, with strong social safety nets, high ratings, public services to reduce out-of-pocket expenses, with things like healthcare, education, childcare. Just the people around me, I've heard that things have eroded, creating a larger divide. We were once known as the lucky country. Now you are
So, yes, while inflation has global drivers, the real problem here is that supermarkets, fossil fuel companies, energy companies, and banks are making record profits, yet paying little to no tax. Meanwhile, everyday workers are being squeezed by rising grocery prices, energy bills, rent, and mortgage rates. Our government keeps handing billions in subsidies and tax breaks to these corporations, while everyday Australians are told to tighten their belts. It's not economic management, it's Australian priorities. So big banks, this is some examples, make $30 billion a year by profiting off struggling borrowers through high interest rates, unfair fees, and limited financial relief. Coles and Woolies control over 65% of the grocery market, driving up grocery prices and ripping off farmers while posting billion-dollar profits. With a third of large companies in Australia paying nothing in tax last year. This isn't happening by accident. It's the result of deliberate policy choices that allow corporations to put profits ahead of people. The major parties, the Labor Party included, are taking millions in donations from these industries and refuse to take any action because they're hold tight. I'll fight to end these corporate handouts, redirect that money to where it's actually needed.
It is a global problem because we have a global economy. The global economy and constant growth does not serve Australia and its people, it serves big corporations. And like Caz says, the major parties are just helping big corporations get richer. The Greens want to tax corporations 10%. We want to stop price gouging and give a minimum fine of $40 million if they do so. And if anyone is earning over $100 million a year, they should be paying 40% tax. And the cheapest, most easiest way to reduce home bills and cut emissions is to electrify homes and business.
It's been proven, the studies are there, ACT is already 100% renewable, South Australia is nearly there. The Greens want to have free doctor's visits, free healthcare for Medicare, for mental health and dental, and free university. Starting from childcare, free education, wiping off student debt. All Greens policies will help the cost of living crisis.
Well, I have to do this off the cuff because I didn't get the invitation didn't come through, so I hadn't had the question beforehand, so this comes to me first hand. So, is there a global financial problem? Yes, there is, no doubt. You know, is that driven by our government? As the question goes here, I don't think so. Our government doesn't control the world. But it does control Australia, and our governments are definitely signing up to different organisations within the world, the WEF, the WHO, the United Nations. A lot of these things are controlling what we are, what we do. Back in 1974, Gough Whitlam signed all our industry out in the Lima Agreement. So we lost all our industry here, where we used to make things, we used to build fridges and washing machines and cars. The older generation knows that now. We've lost that to overseas countries. We need to bring those back. If you visit countries overseas, you can see that these countries are being robbed by these globalists. They destroy their economy. You saw that in the 730 report just recently with the EV trap. They say it's emissions free, and then they were destroying it. We need them back on our shore so that we can do better for our country.
If we could just have the microphone back down to Geoff, please. And I'd like to congratulate everybody for not knocking over glasses. Which is really fantastic. So we're just going to do as planned. We'll start this time with Geoff and work back and come back again after the break. And the next question is.
Yeah, we might just take a break for a minute or two because we're having trouble with our live streaming. For those who don't know, we're live streaming on YouTube and people will be able to watch it again later. So we don't want anyone to miss anything. So we're just going to give DJ a chance to readjust what's going on down there. If anyone wants to go to the loo, that's fine. This is your whole lady here. Okay. Is Justin here? Justin? Yeah, hey. Your question's up next. Do you have it written out or do you want to? Yes, I did. Just wait until we get it. Yeah, just check you're ready. And while we're waiting, I know Ken's here. Where are you? And Paul? Do we have Paul?
Written that question, you got that.
Okay.
I'm happy to ask for enough.
Oh, you have a question of your own? Yeah. Okay. I'm just running through the list of people who were pretty loaded questions. There, enough of that. All right. So just give us a couple of minutes more, and then we'll carry on from there.
We know what the tech government sort themselves out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook, but we advertise on Facebook that we do these meetings on live stream for people who can't get here. That way, if you come and watch it on the night, you can watch it next week or the week after that. But you'll need to go to our Facebook page and you'll find the link to the YouTube stream on our Facebook page. And if you can't know how to do that, if you've got contact details for me, just send me an email and I'll send you an email to the YouTube link. Okay, Justin, you're on. Yep, sorry.
Can I just say, I remember to wear my hearing aids, but some of the delivery is so fast, I don't know whether everybody can understand every word. So,
how are people finding with that?
I think there's a lot of echo.
There is a lot of echo.
You need to speak a little slower.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the words are much together.
Yeah.
well, it's 30 seconds.
Sorry.
The microphone is the microphone is hiding now.
The thing with this microphone, unfortunately, you need to speak right into it, so I'm pretty close to your mouth. And if you speak a bit slower, even though the time will go up after 1 minute, we won't cut you off. We'll let you finish your thought. Just don't go on for 2 minutes, okay? All right, Justin. Yeah, you want a microphone? Or you
I tried to get up first of all, good evening. Thank you all for your time. I know it's very precious and very expensive with all of us. My question is concerning those people who have disabilities and members of the LGBTQIA plus community, and those that are also on the NDIS, that's basically all encompassing. How can you ensure that they're properly represented by you? Will there be more avenues for them to say, find assistance and work and things like that to properly find their own ways and their best ways to contribute to the community at large?
Hey, thanks, Justin. That's a really good question. My oldest son is on the ASD spectrum. This is an issue that I deal with on a daily basis. I would like to say that firstly, put the LGBTQ in the same sentence as disabled people. Yeah, a little bit unethical, and we don't want to imply that these LGBTQ people are also disabled, because this is definitely not the case. So I believe that yes, I do want to represent all parties involved. However, there's obviously very different policies in regards to how we're going to go about it. In regards to people with disabilities on the NDIS, we need to have options that they can train and retrain. We need to provide these at their subsidised or low cost, because it should not cost $1 million to become a doctor. Okay? We need to have avenues and safe areas and separate areas for all people. We don't need to expect men and women to be using the same margins as everybody else, and it would be unfair for us to continue the segregationist government policies that are being continued at the moment. Thank you.
We do currently have laws and provisions to ensure equitable participation, such as anti-discrimination laws and workplaces making adjustments to each individual person. However, I believe we can do more. For example, I haven't seen any Auslan interpreters at any of these forums so far. We need to represent the deaf community better, well, at all, I guess. And did you know that with the supported wage system, disabled people can be paid less? Do you see Dave, who's an able-bodied person, getting paid less because he only works half as much as you? I stand for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and if elected, I will continue to fight for those things in all policies.
Can you hear me without a microphone?
Yes.
Yes, I think I would rather try this rather than deal with the echo. So, all right. Again, I'm going to read because of the time constraints. So, again, I agree it's a really important question. I'm going to answer it in two parts. How to improve care and how to improve access to work. So on care, and obviously you guys know from my introduction, I'm a registered nurse. I've worked a lot with the NDIS, NDIA, and people with disabilities right through my career. So we need to simplify the process to apply for the NDIS so people can access support quickly and without unnecessary delays. We need to crack down on dodgy providers, making sure funding actually goes to the person in need. We need to demand transparency so the public can see how disability funding is used and whether it's actually working, and put people first by ensuring those with a lived experience help shape policy and services. On employment, we know that around half of the people with disabilities in Australia are in work. That's actually unacceptable. I support a dedicated federal department to coordinate a disability policy and inclusion across government. A national disability action plan with real targets and public reporting across health, housing, education, justice and employment. I support public sector hiring targets for people with disability, similar to what's actually working really well in both New Zealand and Canada already. A national disability confidence scheme to help schools and workplaces become inclusive and welcoming environments. And genuine co-design of policies with people with disability, leading the way, not just being consulted in the end. And let's be clear, this must include LGBTQI voices, people in that community that have disabilities. We do need intersectional inclusion, not just tokenism. And so these are the beginnings of the things that I would like to do with my expertise and consultation
I've already done with Cowper today. Thank you. I'll dig in mine too. So I've just been with Marla, Jenny Fenton's daughter, who has cerebral palsy, and we've just been making a video on disabilities. So the Greens have always been inclusive of both the queer family and disability, people with disabilities. Some of our MPs fit in those categories as well. You know, we are the party fighting for people with disabilities and trying to push for changes and more action on this. We really want to promote disability pride, so every individual feels confident in who they are. And we need to educate our community around disabilities so the world is better for everybody. People with disabilities, we believe, should have access to employment, jobs, and housing, and also to being able to vote. And, you know, everyone with disability should be able to enjoy all the things that able-bodied people can enjoy anyway. And the Greens are constantly working to fight your side in this issue.
Yeah, with that microphone, I think we can all be heard. It is pretty easy. Look, Australia has always been a place that accepts everybody, and everybody is welcome here. You know, there's no discrimination in that way. It's by some people, but as a country, we hold true to accepting everybody as they are. There's no doubt the NDIS program started out with all good intentions, but it is at the moment being rorted by dodgy people within it. It's at $60 billion. It only went $5 billion over budget this year. They're projecting it to be $100 billion by 2030. Unsustainable in this country. Disability, it is definitely needed. My wife works with somebody in the disability, takes them out into the workforce, got them a job working in a shop, which she gets paid at, trains her in that way. And I think those are the beautiful thing. It's a community-based thing. All people within the disability sector are welcome in this country. And I think when they're cared for by family and friends and helped into a job, and there is organisations within the community that help out as well with that. So thank you.
Oh, sorry, I think my voice is big enough. So the NDIS was a great Labor platform and was a great scheme. When the coalition got in, they basically wanted to trash it. We're actually working now with 700,000 people who are on the NDIS to make sure that they have choice over what happens with their plans. That it's not clerical people who are making decisions on plans. It's clinical people that make decisions on plans, because that's how it should be. I myself worked for 10 years for CRS doing exactly what you're talking about, finding people with disabilities jobs in the Cowper area. So I know what it's like. And the other thing I know is that people with disabilities want to contribute to the society and they want to be included in our society. I've already started talks with Fair Australia, and we are actually, and I've been speaking with Tim Ayres, one of our duty senators, to start talking to Labor about having an overarching department that looks specifically at all the different disability issues that we have. Not a department here that does this, and a department here that does this, and a department here that does that. And so you don't have to be telling the same story over and over again, and so we can make concentrated, effective steps to actually make Australia a fairer society. The other thing I'll just say, when CRS, Commonwealth Rehab, was started after the Second World War to actually help return servicemen to actually get back into the workforce, those who have been injured. But the coalition scrapped that department about 8 years ago. And now that's just another service that they said, well, we don't need to look at those people. We're happy to have them marginalised. They're not like us. That's not what we want in Australia. We want to have an inclusive society, and we want to make sure we bring everybody along, and that's what Labor's about.
Next question.
Yeah, question.
Now, this will be answered by Zeke first, right?
You want to read it up? How about you stand here and speak that way so the audience can hear you too?
Okay. So, thank you. My question is, Australia is the only liberal democracy without a National Human Rights Act or Bill of Rights. In the face of mounting global human rights violations, how will you ensure human rights are protected here, and would you support the introduction of a National Human Rights Act?
I agree that we need to uphold international law and speak out about human rights violations. In Myanmar, people face human rights violations since the military takeover in 2021. Over 3.5 million people displaced because of this. And in Sudan, human rights violations stemming from the civil war that began in April of 2023. And even in China, there's an ongoing repression for those that don't agree with the government. In Gaza, Palestinians who spoke out against Hamas were tortured and killed. International responses seem to only come if it is in their country's self-interest, such as access to resources.
Sorry, can you speak up, please, or something?
We need to move away from real politics, where decisions are made based on national interest and find our moral compass. And remember, we are all humans, and we all deserve to be treated with kindness and respect.
We don't have that question.
That's a different question to what
It's from then just vary it a little bit from what it was. If you want to give the answer based on the written question spoke a little bit more about Israel.
Yeah.
Feel free to speak along those lines if you wish, or just stick to the general human rights.
I'd need you, can I ask you to repeat it again?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry to throw a curveball, but I did check the breath. Australia is the only liberal democracy without a National Human Rights Act or a Bill of Rights. In the face of mounting global human rights violations, how will you ensure human rights are protected here, and would you support the introduction of a National Human Rights Act?
Right. So the original question, should we read that out as well so the audience can hear? Yeah. Does everyone have a copy?
No.
Do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that? Okay, yeah.
My original question was, Amnesty International has concluded that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, and the ICC has issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and others. If elected, how will you work to ensure that Australia upholds international law and is not complicit in human rights violations?
So what I'm going to do is start with answering the original question, which I think might wind in your response. If it doesn't, I'm happy to.
I'm happy that very much.
Okay, all right. So it is a critical and urgent question, and so both your questions are. I'm not sure when we as a country decided it was acceptable to stay silent in the face of war crimes and crimes against humanity. And this is a humanitarian catastrophe, and I'm referring to the Gaza question. I think it's close to 60,000 Palestinian people have now been killed, most of them civilians, many of them children, and almost 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced. Let me be clear, no civilian should ever be a target of war. War crimes must be condemned, the illegal occupation of Palestinian territories must end, international law must be upheld, not just in words but through real action, including an International Human Rights Act and our compliance with that. More than 150 countries, including Australia, have called for humanitarian ceasefire, and I strongly support this. If elected, I will advocate within Parliament and directly to the Minister for Foreign Affairs to ensure that Australia supports the safe evacuation of civilians, calls for the immediate release of hostages, restores aid to Gaza, including through the UN relief and works agencies, push for the guaranteed safety of Palestinians in their homes, work towards a diplomatic resolution that respects safety, dignity and sovereignty of the Palestinian people. I'm also deeply concerned about the rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia here in Australia. There is absolutely no place for hate in our communities. We must come together and speak up for peace, human rights and justice.
Yes, of course the Greens will support the Human Rights Act. And we think we should exit AUKUS, just to put that in there, and stop funding the American war machine and put that money into our country, looking after our people. We condemn the killing of civilians in Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon, and Israel. No civilian should be the target of violent war. For peace, there must be an end to the state of Israel, illegal occupation of Palestine, territories, and its genocide in Gaza. Australia should stop all military exports to Israel, and all parties comply with international law relevant to the UN resolution and the UN Declaration of Human Rights. So, one of our main pillars is ending war and peace and non-violence. We have 4 pillars we stand by, and all our policies are guided by these 4 pillars. And peace is one of the main ones. I was marching against the Gulf War when I was in primary school, and we are still spending trillions to kill millions. We should be negotiating around tables and not just killing everyone and buying weapons off America.
What a question, eh? All around the world, this is the problem with war. Like my father fought in the Second World War, our grandfathers fought in the First World War, and our sons and daughters are still fighting in wars today. We'd all love there to be no war, but unfortunately men and women aren't like that, are they? In places there's people that just want war. They seek it, there's a war machine. Is genocide being committed? I don't know about that, I've never been there. The right for a country to defend itself, is their right. We've had warships sitting off our coast, and we're saying, what are we going to do about it, if China comes, right? We defend our country, yes. Israel has that right to defend our country. One nation has stated that they stand with that. Do we want innocent civilians killed? No, they don't. Do the Israelis do that? No, they don't. There was babies killed, there was babies put in microwave. We saw those horrific things that came out of Israel and Gaza, and there's still babies held as hostages at this stage. And we want them back home with their families. We want people in Gaza to live in peace, and I think the world to live in peace, as well as Russia and Ukraine as well. So yeah, we need human rights. Hopefully we can find peace one day in this world. That would be a God-given thing for everyone, I think, to live in peace in this world, and a great place that would be.
I actually think it's a great shame as Australia, and because that's what I know, that we don't have a charter, a human rights charter in Australia. And I think that one of the things that it may do is it may point the way for some of the things that still need to be addressed in Australia. We support the International Court of Justice and the work that it does. And we actually, I think all Australians, are probably horrified by what's happening in Gaza. And so again, it comes to human rights, not just about our society or Australia, but around the world. And we need to be doing more. I would say that absolutely, without up, we need to be doing more. One of the things that distresses me is how we get sort of inured to violence. These people, it's headline news for a couple of weeks. It's the first story on the news, etc., and then gradually the stories get smaller and smaller. The casualties get larger and larger, and we basically say we're going to choose to ignore that. So yes, what's happening in Egypt, or should I say, what's happening in Israel and in Gaza needs absolutely to be addressed. Yes, we need a charter for human rights. And yes, as human beings, we should all feel bad about what's happening in lots of countries around the world.
I'll go straight to the first question. One of our core policies at Fusion is that we need to install human rights into Australia. This goes far and beyond war, but it goes to standard living conditions. So absolutely, yes, I do agree. Now, if elected, Fusion wholly supports Australian aid being delivered to war-torn areas and will continue to push for avenues to apprehend those responsible where appropriate, but not at a detriment to our own country and economy. We will have to attack the issues at the core, however, and this won't be an easy fix. there's several groups of people that are fighting across the other side of the world. They all need our help, and as a proud and strong nation, we should be able to use our surplus and help restore them the same quality of life that you and I expect. It shouldn't just be about us. If we expect to be able to live these happy, healthy lives, why can't they? Who's to say that we can't spend that extra dollar that we've got in our pocket to help somebody else in need? Our entire aim here at Fusion is to be inclusive and maintain that inclusiveness for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
If we have Stephen here.
Yeah.
We're up to you, Stephen. And then we'll start answering questions from Caz.
Thank you very much. I'm with St Vincent de Paul, and we see the cold face of disadvantage in the community. The recent statistics show that there are 780 people in Cowper suffering homelessness, 6,400 waiting for social housing, while 46% of rental households are struggling to pay the rent, and 8,000 of Cowper residents are on job seeker at $55 a day. Are you able to say what practical solutions you would advocate to relieve the pressures facing our fellow residents in Cowper?
Thanks, Stephen. Look, as I said before, we've actually knocked on 15,000 doors in Cowper and spoken to people across the board in all of our communities. We know that we have some of the lowest socioeconomic communities in New South Wales, and the issue of exactly your question comes up all the time. So we have put together a policy on my website in collaboration with services like yours, people that are either homeless or end users of the housing system, and community members across Cowper. So I think I'd just like to outline the points in my policy. So we need to build more social and affordable housing, but we need serious government investment, not just talk. Thousands of people across Cowper can't find a secure place to live, and it's not good enough. We need to fix our broken planning system. Councils are under-resourced and planning rules are outdated. We need to support faster approvals for sensible developments like townhouses, dual occupancies, small infill housing that fits the bill for our communities. We need to support community-led models. Now look to Bellingen. This includes rent-to-build, community land trusts, housing cooperatives. These models give people long-term security and take the pressure away from speculative investors. We need to make downsizing easier for older residents, and that includes looking to real tax breaks when it comes to housing. We need stronger rules for short-term rentals. Platforms like Airbnb are pushing up rents and reducing housing availability in our region, and we need to have these real conversations. We need to grow the trades, the workforce to build the homes, because we have massive skill shortages because successive governments have let us down and destroyed the TAFE system. We need apprenticeships. We need to have real incentives for people taking on apprentices. We need to reform our tax settings to ensure all new housing is energy efficient, affordable to run, and built to withstand climate extremes. We have a lot of work to do in this area, and you need an independent on the crossbench to hold these government promises, hold these governments to account and get the real work done. Thank you.
So, Greens believe housing is a basic human right, and we want to end homelessness. I've worked in the homeless field for quite a few years, and at the moment, the two major parties are giving tax cuts to property investors to the tune of $176 billion. This needs to be turned around so first homeowners can afford their first home. We need to cap rents, and we need to lower interest rates so people can afford where they live. And we need to start building more accessible, sustainable and affordable housing. And by doing that, we can give a rent-to-buy scheme. So people who would never own their house will one day own their home. So this is Green's policy, and we are planning to build 100,000 homes in the first 10 years, creating over 4,500 jobs and upskilling tradies and labourers, just like Caz was saying. So, the Greens have really strong housing policies, and we have been pushing the major parties, and any change that has happened on housing is because Greens have been there fighting the corner.
I've worked in the building industry most of my life, And I think when government's been in the way of building, that's where we get the problem. During the Rudd-Gillard government, they gave money out to all the schools to build, and they took all the red tape out of the way. And when we took the red tape out of the way, all that red tape, green tape that got in the way of building, what you had to do, regulations, we could just build. We built the school in no time flat, whereas normally through processes today, it takes a year or a year and a half for a person to get a home. When we started building homes in the 70s and the 80s, it was 3 months, and if they went over 3 months, you know, people were up in arms. So there's something wrong in our system with building homes at the moment. The housing shortage, well, in the last 2 years, we've brought in over 1.5 million people in this country, all in the same time as we said, you know, we haven't got enough houses. How do we bring people in and say, there's a home for you? That's why people are living in tents down by the rivers, around Coffs Harbour, even here in Port. All over this country, we are being flooded now with people. We've got over 800,000 students that come in from overseas as well, all needing houses, and we haven't got houses for our own people here. So One Nation's policy is to cut that immigration right back, cut the students back, cut the red tape back so we can build houses, and there will be no housing shortage then in this country. Thank you.
Just so Vigors, there was an announcement just last weekend, I think the weekend before, the federal government will partner with the states and the development industry to build 100,000 homes specifically reserved for sale by only first home buyers, not for investors. More than 400,000 homes have been built since Labor has actually come to office. We're delivering 55,000 social and affordable homes over the next 5 years. 28,000 are currently in planning or under construction, but they don't get built overnight. And that's, so supply is one big thing. We will actually have more already completed, but the Greens actually held up the policy until they could actually make and then a few months after that, they actually made a big media announcement saying, hey, we're actually putting through a housing policy. So we need to get the politics of the Greens out of that and work together with all parties to do that. With as far as just generally socially, underneath Labor, we've actually increased by 45% rent assistance, and we've actually increased New Start allowances as well. So we need to actually make sure that we're bringing those people along. We've got free tape because we need tradies to actually build these homes for us. We can't just say, we want more homes, so we're going to do this for more homes. What we actually need to do is say, we've got a pipeline. Tradies to be trained, we're giving incentives to bosses to actually hire new apprentices, so $10,000 each, and $5,000 to the new apprentices, so that they can tool up and get ready to actually go out there and build the homes that we will need and will continue to need in our community.
Look, let me start off with saying it doesn't matter how many houses you build, if you can't afford to buy one, it doesn't matter. All right, that's the reality of where we all are right now. The question isn't how many houses are you going to build, it's how is everybody going to afford a house. Now, in the current market, you need to be earning $120,000 a year to even afford to buy a house in New South Wales. To rent a house, I'm a renter. To rent a house, you can't do it on a pension. Not at all. There's not a single house available in New South Wales again today for rent for any single pensioner following the current legislation. So what we need to do at the moment, I've got some figures here myself. I was actually researching this afternoon. The homeless figures at the moment are actually quite underreported at 48 people per 10,000. Okay, that means that at least 50 people in Port Macquarie alone are going to be homeless. This is just dreadful. We need to find avenues for these people to afford a home as well as maintain a home. Rent to own is brilliant, but again, we need to have homes that they can afford to rent to own. New modular homes and building means that we can introduce these things in a much shorter time frame. Chris over here said that 3 months used to be the time frame to build a house. Why isn't it that way again? Why are we waiting for so many exports to come in and then blaming each other? Absolutely not. We need to bring this manufacturing back to Australia, start making these houses back here in New South Wales, and we need to build it for the people. Thank you.
I do have a policy on my website that I made. I'm actually quite fortunate enough to be able to still live at home rent-free. I could not imagine having to rent, let alone buying a house. The Australian dream of everyone owning a home seems to be just that, a dream. We need to start thinking differently. In Japan, green space is shared, which allows for smarter land use while also building community connections. This frees up space to build more houses. We need to work with local councils to make sure planning supports both growth and sustainability. We need to build more social housing and push for rental caps so that people can afford it. We have seen locally that when people arrive to work on the bypass, rents increase as private companies push citizens out of their own homes. In Australia, we achieved success for a short time during COVID, when many people sleeping rough were accommodated. Why the hell did we stop? It can be done again. Having a place should be everyone's right, and I want to push for this if I get elected.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm Stuart Watson from Energy Group, the local community energy group, and this is a question that I really would like to put to Pat Conaghan. So if anyone sees it,
We'd like to as well, Stuart. We can't find it.
Yeah, we're working to make energy affordable and cut the cost of living for people in Australia. There's $4,100 per household to be saved with electrification. What support would you give to local energy hubs and local renewable energy if elected, including support for renters and people in public housing? Thank you.
Okay, so we have had this electrify homes and houses for at least, as our policy, for at least 20 years. And we have grants for houses and grants for businesses to transition, to put batteries on, put solar on, and also transition out of gas and get electrical appliances. And they both also have low interest loans that they can get out to transition into the energy electrifying rather than gas and coal. I don't have the actual figures with me tonight because I didn't have that question, but yeah, obviously it is the most cheapest way to bring down household bills and business bills and to cut emissions, and it's a no-brainer. Like I said earlier, the ACT is already running on 100% renewables, and there's many countries around the world doing it as well, and South Australia is nearly there. And for renters, if we have community-owned batteries, even if you don't have solar on the roof, the solar that's generated through the day can go into the community batteries and anyone can access that. But the key to this is it has to be community owned, it has to be public owned and not owned by big corporations who will not monopolise it again and then charge dearer electricity bills.
It's a nice thing to have solar. I've got many friends that live in the bush and live off the grid, but unfortunately they haven't been able to do that properly yet. Their system isn't fully functioning yet. We've forced the green energy into the market with a one-way track. It's a nice thing to do, for sure, but can we do it yet? No, because the electricity at the moment for people is out of control. Their prices have gone up and up and up. We've heard the thing that it's a cheap renewable electricity. Well, I remember when they told us to throw out all our light globes and it'll make electricity cheaper, so we threw millions and millions of light globes into the bin and our electricity went up. Then they told us to throw our appliances out to get better, effective appliances that will reduce our electricity, and our electricity prices have gone up and up and up. And it's the same with the cars. When we force something on society, it doesn't work. These things have to grow naturally. And if they don't grow naturally, we will fall into a hole. We've had cheap, reliable electricity here when I was a kid. under coal and gas. I don't see why we shouldn't run these side by side until our systems work properly. And if they work, then our industries work. We have work here for our people, but at the moment, if we were to run on solar, we would have no industry in this country at all.
Firstly, I'd just like to challenge something. The energy market coordinator, that's not exactly the term, but they've actually put out figures just over the last 2 weeks to say that energy was actually going up at the end of the coalition. It's actually only gone up 3% while the coalition, since Labor's been in power, and it's actually gone down when you consider the subsidies. But subsidies are only part of it, are only a minor thing. We need to actually be doing things like Stuart was talking about. We need to rewire Australia. Where the way forward is clean energy. Labor has actually got 400 community batteries already, community hub batteries. We're planning many, many more. We need to actually make sure that the subsidies that we have for households are enough to actually for them to actually buy a battery and to put solar panels on the roof. Maybe not straight out, but maybe we need to be doing things like low-cost loans to actually do that. I personally have solar and a battery, and everything in my house is basically low energy. So I'm committed to this cause. Fossil fuels have had their day. The only people that talk about competitive fossil fuels are people that are actually climate change deniers and people that think pumping tons and tons and millions of tons of coal dust into the atmosphere for our children and grandchildren to deal with is a good thing. I totally stand against that. Renewable energies, clean energies, they're cheaper. Gas is the most expensive way to generate energy. And at the end of the day, it's not even about that. It's about what we leave our children and our grandchildren. And that's what clean energy is about. I'm sorry, I'm quite passionate about it, but I just feel very strongly about it.
So, look, the cheapest way that I see to make energy cheaper for everybody is to have everybody have a battery. Look, I know plenty of people who live on boats, who live in caravans, and they are completely self-sufficient. This is not a pipe dream. This is a reality that we can have for each and every Australian. There is absolutely no need for us to be relying entirely on an electricity grid built on coal. We don't need to worry about nuclear energy. We need to lean heavily towards the renewable and clean energy sources. Now, in saying this, it's not just solar that we need to rely on. It's not just wind that we need to rely on. And in regards to wind power, we need to completely rework the way that we do it at the moment. These giant big turbines with non-recyclable blades, absolutely atrocious idea. We're burying more of them than we are digging up coal in the ground. So we need to look towards countries like Sweden. They've got a 75%, they will reduce their output by 75%. I think there's actually 7 countries in the world now that are 100% renewable. We need to start following their suit and bring this to Australia as well. Thank you.
I've actually got a policy on my website about this. I'm fully on board with solar panels. I've done the research, and we can get zero interest loans. And then everyone's saving money because you just slap them on the top of buildings. It's not taking up any extra space. And they're only 20% efficient at the moment. We can go further. And if we innovate in Australia, get them built for Australia, they will be more efficient to decrease electricity prices, possibly even get them down to zero for the average person without having to spend a whole lot of money on it.
So I've done the research to answer your question, Stuart, on energy hubs, and you're absolutely right. All these promises nationally, let's get focused on what we need locally. We know that people are struggling locally. We absolutely need to call, and I've committed to calling for an energy hub in Cowper to help local households, farms and small businesses cut power bills, reduce emissions and take advantage of the shift to cleaner and cheaper energy. Now, we need an independent to be doing this lobbying on our behalf. This hub in our region would operate as a trusted outreach centre staffed by local energy experts who provide face-to-face advice and connect people with grants, installers and proven solutions. So people want to make their homes more affordable, efficient and less reliable on fossil fuels, but often they don't know where to start. So the energy system is confusing, information is often fragmented, biased or hard to access. A local energy hub would provide clear, practical advice and connect people with funding options. It would offer free or discounted energy audits, helping people understand where to start, what upgrades can be offered, and the best they can ever provide trusted advice on installation, heat pumps, solar batteries, EVs, and appliance upgrades. It will connect locals here in Cowper with reputable products, installers to avoid shoddy work or bad deals, and help people access grants, rebates, and green finance options. Support renters in low-income households access upgrades and energy savings, host outreach events, support community energy projects, and build on local energy security, which is what we need in our region, and then we can ripple out to the rest of Australia and show what it is to actually have a community focused on cleaner energy. Thank you.
Did I miss anybody who sent in a question to me? Right, well, we're ready to start taking questions from the floor, while everything is choosing people to ask questions. If you've got a question to ask, just put up your hand.
Gee, not me, I think we have a gentleman here. Would you mind, you able to stand and ask? Would
you like to microphone?
I don't think I need to write. About the housing and the cost of living, nobody has actually spoken about, as far as I can understand it, about doing away completely with the tax relief on investment properties. When a cashed up investment property buyer is competing with a first time home buyer, they're going to win the battle every single time. What is very noticeable is, and it was a list published by the ABC, I think in November.
Can we have a question?
Yes, I'm coming to the question. Nearly every MP and senator owns one or more investment properties. What are you going to do to stop them refusing to amend the law? Until they agree that they are being greedy, all of those people will suffer. So what will you do to stop it?
So we'll start with
Right, so to stop the government from owning more homes, like the MPs, they're owning multiple homes.
Yes.
Yeah, look, going back, negative gearing gave us all that opportunity as Australians to own a second home. We haven't got a housing crisis in here. We've got a immigration crisis that is driving up demand. We're losing those houses to overseas at the moment. There's students in here, like I said, there's 700,000 students here that take up housing in Australia. So growing up as a kid, there was houses, there was rental properties for everyone. And there was plenty, there was always demand. Anyone could get it. Anyone could buy a home, could get a home, for sure. But the great Australian dream was to own a home and maybe have an investment. I'm sure that those that are wealthier, can multiply that on and on and on. And yes, there should be a regulation there to do that. I don't know what that looks like, but MPs have the inside running, as we know, and rot the system, and we obviously need to close that door on them. As they definitely rot the system on their benefits, on their superannuation, which they get, it's not an equal playing field for all Australians. Those things need to come back into a line as well, so they line up with ordinary Australians.
Can I just ask that we stop the immigration bashing?
Yeah. Immigrants
make our culture richer. Immigrants build our country for us. We are all immigrants here.
Yes.
So, can I say, we're past that. You talk about equity, but you talk about immigration and stopping immigrants coming to Australia. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to us. So let's talk about the
one speaker, please. One speaker.
Let's talk about the housing side of things. Absolutely. Personally, I feel that the negative gearing it's not a fair policy. A it benefits the rich, we need to stop it at all. It's one of those things that all parties talk about and nobody does. We need to actually have some sort of a change so that we can actually say we need to build more houses for our individuals, for people that need housing, more social housing, but stop the market being inflated falsely by things such as negative gearing. Very much so. If I was your local member, that would certainly be one of my big things that I would be pushing for. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about making Australia fairer, and that's what we need to do. And the gap between the rich and the poor is getting wider. I know that. That's America. We don't want that in Australia. We want to bring them back together. We're a different society. So let's work for equity for everybody.
Look, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon there, and I'm going to absolutely agree. Immigration is not the sole problem with our housing. I'm hospitality background for the last 20 years, and I can tell you from personal experience that over 50% of our workforce in the hospitality sector are immigrants. Okay, I absolutely love the multiculturalism. It's one of the things that I feel most passionate about Australia. Okay, I think we as a whole should be accepting that rather than punishing it. Look, I don't agree with the negative gearing. I feel that it's obviously a policy that's going to favour the rich and squander the poor. With Fusion, we have actually got some policies directly in place here. So as I've said before, we want to increase our public housing, which will end up bringing the taxes and the prices of houses down. We want to reduce the tax treatments that are now favouring owning over renting. We need to have people that are able to be incentivised to build a rental property. Not everybody wants to own a home, not everybody needs to own a home, but there needs to be avenues for those that want to and those that need to still be able to buy one. And we need to stop these tax breaks for the large corporations and giving them a chance to buy up all this land. We need to keep this back in our pockets. I'm one of you guys, I don't own a home, I've been renting, and up until recently I was one of those 780 Cowper residents that was homeless. So I'm feeling this from the heart, I'm feeling this passionately, and it's something I will continue to stand and fight for each and every one of you if I get elected.
I do have to admit, this isn't something I've heard of before, so I have to look into it a bit more, but I do believe that the rich shouldn't be able to get extra homes in order. Everyone should have a chance to own a home, but not everyone has to. I want there to be affordable housing. If people want to rent, that's fine, but I want the prices to go down. They need to be regulated. And I'm happy to push against the rich. I don't care what they say. I'm happy to go against them.
Hopefully, as your future MP, I just want the record to be clear, I don't have any investment properties. However, some people in the past, this is a really good question, have done the right thing. So a lot of people have built wealth because they've followed the law. So it has been the law. But unfortunately, we've been off track in Australia by having housing as a commodity rather than a basic human right. And so what do we do with people, and there might be many of you in the room tonight who have invested in homes, maybe for your children or your grandchildren into the future, and what do we do about the widening gap whereby investors now are way more likely, in fact more than 65% of people buying homes at the moment are investors. So we know we've got an imbalance. So I think maybe what we need to do is we definitely need to look at taxes associated with housing, and we need to do the right thing, and we need to actually move away from, there's like probably at least 9 loopholes in taxes that investors have in making money off housing in Australia. But do we need to look at potentially grandfathering some clauses so that people who own 1 or 2 investment properties, we're not going to cut them off at the knees by their lifelong plan and saving strategy, whereby then we maybe grandfather some clauses, but start to make the changes to the tax laws that need to be made. Now, Allegra Spender, who's an independent in Sydney, she has put forward a really good green paper, which has now been made into a bill, looking at real questions around tax and housing. And actually, the Financial Review said last week or the week before, it's really the only first MP in the country who's actually said, we need to address this, folks, we can't leave it as it is. Things are out of control and it's not working. But we need to be real as well. So where do we find the sensible centre where we actually grandfather some clauses so we don't leave people high and dry for their lifelong savings and earnings? But how do we make sure that we do start to make it more affordable and change the tax laws for young people and people wanting to buy a home coming in? So somewhere we absolutely need to be having this debate. We absolutely need to be changing the commodity situation that we have in housing at the moment, and we need to be making it a basic human right so that it's more affordable for all. But we also need to consider that people haven't broken the law. The law has been unjust. Yeah.
I did touch on this a bit, just stating that property investors with taxing and negative gearing get to the tune of 176 billion in cuts when they're investing in houses. So Green's plan is to transition this and flip it, so first homeowners get those advantages, not property investors. And if we tax our corporations and fossil fuels, it can help everyone, it can help housing. And Botswana, they tax their diamonds, and every kid at 26 gets given a home. This isn't impossible. This has all been proven, and this is where we need to get the divide between the rich and the poor better, like equalised, because at the moment, all the policies, all the laws are about making corporations and the rich richer, and the Greens have always been the party for the people, from the people, and we've been pushing the governments to address these issues and bring the money into our communities and into our societies so people of disadvantaged backgrounds get the opportunity to break the cycle and better their families for the future generations.
Do we have any other questions from the floor? Yes, please stand and quite loud voice. Thank you.
Can I ask you all about preferences? Who you're preferencing anyone and who is?
So we'll start back with Greg.
So yeah, we had a bit of a up and down with the preferences, but at this stage we're going to be preferencing Caz number 2. So what I'd like you to do is vote 1 Labor, because you know Labor is the party of government, and Labor is the party that will make a change. But I'm quite happy. I think Caz, if she gets in, would be a good local member. I think I'd be a better one. But I think whatever way we do, it's really important that everybody think about how they're voting all the way down, because we really need a change in this electorate. We've had 60 odd years. I think it was 1963 the last time there was a non-country party, National Party person in this electorate, and that was because the member died. You know, and there was a by-election. We need a change, and whether that change is Zeke or me or Wendy or even the Caz, I think let's just make sure we get the change. So please make sure you fill out every single square, all 11 of them. You don't fill out every single square, the vote will not count, it will be invalid.
Thank you. Look, my preference is not going to go to one of the major parties. Fusion as a whole stands for transparency and whistleblowing protection and innovation. Now, that's 3 terms that not one of these the major parties ever knows what is. Okay? I'd have to sit here for the next hour trying to explain it to some of these people here. I would love to say that I've got a preference Caz, however, I can't sit here and honestly feel that she's an independent with some of the avenues that's come out and some of the funding that she's obviously showing. It's a little more than some of us regular independents and small parties can actually afford. I would be leaning more towards Wendy, Megan and Zeke in my top preferences. I feel they closely align with what Fusion stands for, and I feel that as smaller and more thornier candidates, they would provide the next best option other than myself.
I would prefer you put me number 1. As everyone else, it's all up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, except definitely put me number 1 right there. The jokes aside, just make sure you fill out the whole form so your vote does count.
I'm not allocating preferences. I'll be
around encouraging people to vote number one for me. If you're really determined to vote for another party, please consider putting me as number two. But make no mistake, we're on the verge of creating history here in Cowper. I'm currently polling in front. I'm very happy to talk to you about the funding that's made this David in July campaign actually possible. If that's a question that anyone would like to ask afterwards, because it really is grassroots democracy in action across Australia, and I'm very proud to be standing here as a viable option for you. I think, let's get real and let's do it.
The Greens have pretty much done a left to right scale with their preferencing. Obviously, we want to put Greens in the Senate and we want Greens in the House. Acknowledge that the Greens have been fighting for every one of you for decades and put us first and Caz second. By putting a minor party before the major party, it sends a strong message to them of how we want to be governed and pushes them to the left. We've got Fusion third, Legalise fourth, Zeke straight after, and the Labor and Max straight together. And I tell you, it was hard to work out the rest because they're all pretty mean. So we've got the Trump party, then we've got Libertarians, and then One Nation, and then Family First. Like, don't get misled by the name because they are just blatantly mean with their policies. But the bad guys last.
Preference is obviously your decision, but I will be preferencing any party that puts Australia first. And the parties that I'll be looking for is definitely Family First will come 2 on our one. The Libertarians will be 3, and Trumpets and Patriots will be at number 4 on that. They are the ones that put Australia in that place. We are in this place right now in Australia in this circumstances because of the governing powers that govern our country right now. Australia does need a change, and it needs a change away from those governments. One Nation has always been there and called for Australia to be put first. That's what we'll be doing, and any party that does that will preference them.
Just let me see if anyone else has a question, because we want to try and get everybody else.
Sure. There was that one that I just wanted clarification or something.
From one person?
Yes.
Quickly ask your question.
Sure, Chris. So there's flyers going around from One Nation and Libertarian to vote for your party first and then second to Nationals. So wouldn't a vote for One Nation basically be a vote for Nationals?
Well, a vote for One Nation will be, second preference will be to the Family First. Is that what it's going around?
Yeah. No, the flyer says vote for One Nation. It's got all of those parties that you mentioned, Wendy, and then the Nationals, so that the votes will go to Nationals. That's the flyer going around. That's from the Libertarian.
Well, I don't know about that one. So,
Okay, thank you.
So we can move on. Maybe that's something Chris will need to check out.
I've got one question, if I may.
Yes, please stand up. Thank you.
You all have done well tonight and said a lot of stuff, but I was just wondering, have any of you costed any of your policies and where you might find that? Thank you.
Right. Look, absolutely. So what was your name, sorry? Paul, absolutely, Paul. I would direct you to our Fusion website, www.fusionparty.org.au. We have costed every one of our policies as well as directed exactly where we expect the monies to be coming from. Sorry?
Who did you get them costed by?
Pardon me?
Who did you get them costed by?
I don't know the fellow myself, as an independent agent. Please, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, my website's up there, it's zekedaley.com. I have all the information on that.
It's not funded by anyone, just my family.
So the beauty of being independent is that I'm not in a fixed position, largely on the crossbench. I will be looking to either support or not policies that are put forward by a party or another independent or a minor party, and so therefore every single thing that I vote on your behalf will be researched on its own merit. It's very unlikely that I would like to bring forward some private members' bills at a time.
So things that say now one cost is what you're saying.
So the things I'm saying.
We've got a question. Please don't.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so for me, the fixed costing, each time that I'm asked to vote on a legislation, which is the most important thing I will do on your behalf, or a bill or make an amendment to a proposed legislation, then I will be reviewing on your behalf what's been put forward, the value of that, in both its costings and its other value, before I vote on it. So I'm not in a fixed stuck position like parties are. I'm in a position to actually evaluate each piece of legislation that's in front of me in a contemporary manner, which I make a commitment to do, as other independents already do on the crossbench and have done for a long time, and then bring forward a vote that's best suited to this region. And that's the most flexible and best way to be, rather than a fixed costed policy position, because I'm not going to be bringing forward a whole lot of policy as a private member. And that's the flexibility of being on the crossbench and the advantage to our region. So great question, thank you.
So the Greens have done extensive research into all our policies. All our policies have been fact-checked and evidence-based, and all the figures are on our website. You can just Google Greens policies and they'll all come up there. It's very accessible.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
Previously, you did get some policies costed by the government, by the Treasury Department. You haven't done that this time?
I'm not 100% sure, I'd have to get back to you on it, but we are clear in our research and that we stand with evidence-based policies. It's not just a la story. We've done a lot of work behind every single one and work with all the communities involved on every issue.
The costing on policies, I suppose, is a hard one. What One Nation has sought out was the government waste, and they've come up with $90 billion worth of government waste and duplication that is covered across the federal government and the state. So we have two education departments, one in federal, one in state. So doing away with these departments put $90 billion back into our economy. So your question is, how do we fund these policies? How do we do it? These policies have to be funded not by adding more to our national debt. They have to be funded by bringing our debt down for our children and grandchildren to come. So if we don't reduce these costs now, we'll be paying for this for decades and decades to come. $1 trillion in debt we are going into now. In 2007, we had no debt. So in the last 20 years, we have gone ballooned out of control. So we need to get that under control. If we look at the price of things and we said productivity, in 1966, when the decimal currency started, here's a little fact, $10 would buy you 16 dozen eggs. Today, $10 buy you a dozen and a half eggs now. Something's gone wrong in Australia.
Just for some clarity, the Federal Education Department has 147 people, and it's in Canberra. They have a completely different purview to what state education departments have. So again, it's not about just saying things, it's about knowing what you're saying is right. The other thing is with the good point, the bad point, however you want to put it, with being a party of government, so being in government, we actually have to have every policy that we put forward confirm the costing by Treasury and Finance. Everybody else here is saying, oh, we might do this, or we might do that, or we're going to get in. We're saying it's been budgeted. It's actually, that budgeting amount has been confirmed. It is a commitment. I don't quite understand Caz when she says, well, I'm going to do all of these things, but I'm not going to actually put forward policies, but I am going to have these policies. I'm a bit confused about that. So what I would actually say is to you that if you, as a party of government, If we say to you, this is our policy, that means that that policy has been confirmed by the independent Australian Finance and Treasury departments, and it is budgeted. That's the big difference. We're doing these things, we've costed these things, we know how much they're going to cost, and we're going to do them for you.
Yes.
So to just put a fact in, the fusion candidates said that wind tower blades cannot be recycled. I say that is false. They are being recycled. I've read that they come out with something I can't remember, but printed on it something like this was a wind tower blade. Now Stuart might know more, and so
We'll just go to fusion candidate comment, no other candidate, and then we'll move on because it's just a clarification.
Look, we have entire deserts with buried wind turbine blades. To say that they're all being recycled is just putting your head in that same sand.
Can I just make a bit of clarification on that, just so that people understand with, I'm sure you guys all do, but one turn of one of those big wind turbines actually produces the same amount of electricity that 15 houses with full solar panels actually produce. So they are, if you walk through, which I have done, like if you walk through Spain or you go to America or whatever, they are in places around there. And I'm sorry, I don't think that's
Thank you, because it was great information. We'll just see if there's any other questions, because otherwise we're going to
Pushing forward on that, if I may, one of our policies is to introduce some of these long-chain carbons, such as hemp plastic, so that we can have recyclable materials used to make wind blades. We also want to reduce the size of these and put them on the sides of people's houses, just like we do on caravans and boats. It's a backup source for the solar energy that we don't need to have one tracker rely on.
Thank you very much. Now, do we have any other questions? Yes, please.
Just a question about this community. There's going to be something like 10 candidates for this election. 11. Sorry.
That's right.
So there's going to be at least 11 quantums of opinion, preference, whatever. None of you is likely to get more than in the 30%.
Sorry, you get more than 1 second.
In around the 30%.
Can we have,
Preferences will then.
can we have a question?
So even if you get to a 50% plus with preferences, there's still 40-something% of the people out there who don't agree with that. So how do we rationalise that and get what you would call a community view? And I will represent my electorate's opinion when it's as diverse as that, and you obviously have to make choices which you're not going to appeal to.
We are
Well, that is a difficult question to answer. I know there are different types of democratic systems, and I believe that the one that we currently use just doesn't really cater towards that. So if we were to look into something like that, we would need to use a different system that gets everyone's inputs and kind of adds them together. Instead of just going to one candidate, you would have to consider, okay, how would this affect other things? It's a very complicated system. I'm not entirely sure how we would implement it.
I think this is the beauty of democracy. This is the beauty of democracy. This is the beauty of diversity in community. I mean, at the moment, the current member only holds a seat by 2.4%. I was only that close behind him last time. I'm currently polling in front of him at the moment. And of course, some people are going to vote Conservative, some people are going to vote for all the different people that are here. And you're right, the preferential system in Australia will get someone over the line, for sure. I mean, I doubt someone's going to get more than 50% of the primaries. It'd be great, but I doubt it. So the thing that I would look to is what other independents are doing and make this assurance to the community. community. So other independents are doing things like running online focus groups and forums. They're running town hall conversations face to face. They're doing online surveys. They're bringing groups of experts and interest groups to Canberra, such as young people, such as people over 65, in aged care facilities, and actually consulting broadly with the community. Now, Jackie Landy's a great example of this in Tasmania. She has an incredible outreach to her community and gets feedback before she votes and then feeds back to the community after she votes on why she did what she did for the community. And I think this is a really great example of democracy in action. As I said, we've got over 3,500 volunteers already. We've knocked on over 15,000 doors. We're already doing this work. We're already consulting way more than any representative's ever done in this region. And we're showing how democracy in action is an exciting and a wonderful thing. We don't want everyone to think the same. It's a boring society. We want to promulgate debate like this across the board all the time, so that we make sure that all voices are heard and that we do find some kind of ground where the majority of the community is represented, and that's democracy. Thank you.
When we look around the world, there are a lot of countries doing it a lot better than us. I won't go into it now, but like Caz is saying, that's been the Greens' grassroots policy all along. When an issue arises, we deal with the people involved, we deal with the communities. They are key in creating policies and making decisions and solutions for them to get the outcomes they want. So forever, the Greens have been working with communities on every issue that comes across, and you see it so good in local government, where all our local candidates are out there in the community, working with the people and creating change for everybody. Finland, they elect one from every party, and then they have a negotiation and they decide. In Switzerland, they elect one from every party, and they bring a decision to the forefront, and they have like at least 4 referendums a year with 4 or 5 questions, and the people are actually making the decisions for government. There are way better ways we can be doing government. I would love to just have a clear slate and let's start again.
Well, you're right there. Not everyone's going to vote and want the same thing, that's for sure. And that is the democracy that we live in. But we don't always get what we want. What we've got to do is do what's right for the country, and I think that's the main thing. We might want all different things, but what is right for the country, what is right for the people, and that's what I'd be working on, is looking at the policies, the different things that are needed within the community, and then doing what's right for the community and this country.
Maybe we should ask our sitting member how he gets to get how you did that. That basically to me, if you are elected, like none of us here, I don't think at the moment, in many cases, are career politicians. There's a difference between being a politician and being a local member. When I was very young, I lived in Leichhardt in Sydney, and the local member knew who the people around the area actually were. You need to be out there talking to people. I'm not going to go all airy-fairy on you or anything, but you need to be out there actually talking with the people and weighing up the various opinions. Now, even at the moment, I've got to say, and I'm sure that these guys are the same, I reckon I probably get at least at the moment, probably about 100 emails a day from people just doing different things, just because I've been running, and so what we need to do is make sure we're in touch with the people. Don't just live in port and stay in port. Don't just live in Costello and stay in Costello. You need to be kind of in touch with your whole electorate, because there are different issues in the electorate. The issues in Port Macquarie are different to the issues in Costello, are different to the issues in Kempsey. So basically, your local member, whoever that's going to be, needs to be out there and talking to you and not hiding away in his electorate office.
Look, I'm going to build on that. That's what my colleagues have already said. We need to be, as a local member, we need to be in and around the community. Already in this last fortnight, I think I've done about 4,000 kilometres driving around Cowper, running around meeting people. I've been up and doing, seeing people at radios. I've been up to Coffs Harbour. I've been down to Port, or up here to Port. I live in Kempsey.
I have been absolutely everywhere. This is a huge area and it's got a huge amount of different people. Every different person has a different opinion, has a different personality. We need to cater for each one of those, and the best way to do that is democracy. As Caz has said, this is the beauty of democracy. Everybody gets a voice, everybody gets a chance to have their vote heard. That's why we have our preferential voting system, so that if the person that you most want doesn't get in, then hopefully the person that you next like will get in, and so on and so forth. We need to keep advocating for this because this is the only way to keep the honesty here. We need to have whistleblower protection and transparency across all levels, otherwise it's going to go nowhere. The only way to do this is to get down and dirty with the people and find out who they are and what they're about. Again, I was hospitality for over 20 years, and I tell you what, that's one of the dirtiest jobs you can get. You meet some people, you learn your communication skills, you learn your community building skills, and that's what I intend to keep focusing on if I get elected as a member for Cowper.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the question part of the evening. I just want to say thank you all so very, very much for being clear, succinct and respectful. And also, please, before I ask all the candidates to have 2 minutes each, please thank them for giving up their valuable time to come tonight. So what's going to happen now is each candidate is going to have 2 minutes just to close off and maybe swingy their way to because on my list, Caz was next. We're going to start with Caz, go through to the end, and back through and we'll introduce it. So 2 minutes each. I have been watching the clock when the bell rings. If someone really starts to get a bit crazy, I'll let them know.
Thank you. Look, as I said, we've spoken to lots of people. We'll continue to speak to more. The overwhelming message is the system's broken. People are worried about the state of geopolitics. People are worried about the cost of living. People are worried that the gap, or the issues we've spoken about tonight, is getting worse, not better. Make no mistake, the two-party system in Australia is broken. The two big parties are in the pockets of the corporates are the puppeteers, the parties are the puppets. There is absolutely a reassurance from me that should I be elected, I will do due diligence, as well as party politicians. Independents also get the eye and the arm of Treasury to speak to and cost up things. As we're making decisions on behalf of our community, we get access to the parliamentary library, and independents are doing their due diligence on everything they're voting on, but most importantly, holding the parties to account. I am sick and tired of broken promises. Yes, we should be doing better. Yes, we could be doing better. This time, if you vote for us, we're going to give you this. It's short-term decision-making for power and control. And to be honest, people have had a gutful in this region. People want real grassroots representation, and 3,500 people have already stepped forward to say, I want to be part of this change. Every day we're getting more and more people joining, because every day people know we're 2.5 weeks from making history where we will have independent representation, actually having your voice being heard in the parliament rather than us being represented by a party politician who's got the party between us and them. I don't have that. I get up every day and I will work for you. I will work for this community and will actually get jobs done. I will actually start applying for grants because that hasn't been done for this region. We've been let down, we've been forgotten, and we've been lost for way too long. It is time to get some real action on local projects, on local strategies that can have an impact on people in this region that are doing it really tough. Outside of that, we can continue to set an example, as others are, but a strong and powerful crossbench sends a message to this government, both sides of the big parties, that Australians have had enough of the power and control. Australians don't want to go down the way of America. We want to have grassroots democracy back, and the only way to do that is tell the parties that we're sick of the way it's going and we need to do better. And quite honestly, the crossbench has been doing that beautifully in the last 3 years, which is why independents are gaining so much strength and reputation. So I will do my due diligence. I will work very hard for you, and we'll get the job done. So please consider your vote in 2.5 weeks' time. Talk to your friends and family, because we're in a whisker of making it happen. Thank you.
Even though the Greens have never been in power, we have always been people fighting for you. pushing the major parties to act on healthcare, on housing, on taxing the corporations. You can see all the people that have good intentions on our ticket have been influenced by Green policies. And you can see Labor adapting our policies now to win back voters. The Greens are making a difference. It may be slow, and the reason why it's slow is because of the bully tactics that we've had to face over the last 50 years. We brought up climate change over 25 years ago, and we were just slandered. If we had acted then, we would be far more advanced with our technologies, and we would be at net zero and not waiting another 25 years for it. We have great policies that are designed to create real change for people, and they're not just a show to look like we're doing something for you while in the back room they're doing deals with corporations. So, we need to acknowledge the work that Greens have been fighting for decades, put Greens 1, Caz 2, and put the Greens in the Senate to keep the bastards honest. This is reality, and stop watching the mainstream media.
One Nation has been around for a long time now, and Pauline Hanson has always called out for Australia, even to the point where she was put in jail by the major parties at one stage and left there. But she's really a blight on our democracy from that time on. She has come out of that, still stood strong, as the party has risen back up again, and it stands strong for Australia. Now, One Nation has put a whole heap of policies together that help Australia straight away, and that's what we need in this country. We can't just be a handout country. At the moment, we're just going, let's throw money out there. Well, we're not throwing anybody's money out there. Not our money. It's not the politicians' money. It's your money that's thrown out into these promises. And how are they going to keep those promises? There's no way. So One Nation has said that we have to reduce that size of government. They've put that $90 billion worth of duplication that the states and the federal have put in to bring that back in. They've put in the 26 cents a litre to come off our fuel straight away. That reduces the cost of food on our shelves immediately because of the cost for trucks and transport. They've also looked at 20% of our electricity bill being brought down immediately by changing the regulation on the market, because it blocks out our coal and our gas and doesn't allow it to run side by side to reduce our energy costs at this time. And that's what we need. Also, they have income splitting for families so that they can get, if there's a couple, one has to stay at home, one works, they split that cost, which reduces their tax, which gives them immediate relief in their cost of living as well. For pensioners, not forgotten. Right, our pensioners struggle as well. They've put a policy in that pensioners, because it is a cost of living crisis, and this is a crisis anyway, but they can go back to work without losing their pension, and I think that's a good thing. And many people that work hard in this country and are now self-funded retirees are punished for doing the right thing. One Nation says, let's lift the cap on that from the $18,000 to $35,000. But you know what? Personally, I don't think that doesn't go far enough. Self-funded retirees should be let loose because they have done their best for this country. So those policies are all under One Nation, and I reckon we should look them up. They are great policies for this country.
You might not think it's all of it, but I'm actually a self-funded retiree. And so I still think that if you're earning over a certain amount, you should be, and you get taxed. Even that out. It's very generous in Australia, so I think we need to look at those things. I think the other thing, when he said, let's talk about reality, well, this is reality. Well, this is reality. And the reality is that the Albanese government's increased wages for childcare workers and health and aged care workers. It's brought in policies so that 90% of people will get bulk bill of Medicare. It's decreased the cost of medicines. It's actually just announced a policy so that we're going to have spend several $100 million on mental health facilities, free mental health facilities throughout Australia via Headspace and via Medicare group as well. So we're not just talking about what we would like to do. Labor's actually saying this is what we've done and this is what we're going to continue to do. We had 10 years, basically nearly 10 years, where we had a government that didn't believe in clean renewable power, that didn't believe in climate change, that didn't build houses, that didn't increase the social welfare benefits, that basically said, you know what, we're in power, we're going to look after the rich. Don't go back, please, don't go back to those governments. Think about who vote. Vote for Labor, because Labor is the party in government that believes in social justice. It believes in bringing people along. All of our policies are helping people out there in the everyday world. But you need to be in government to make these changes. And I think that there's some good ideas on this panel, absolutely. But nobody's ever really said, how are we going to get those through? How are we going to get that passed in the government, and how are we going to fund that? I can tell you how you're going to get it passed with those ideas. That's by being in government, as we are at the moment, and we want to be after 2 weeks' time, because we've got a lot more work to do. It's taken us 3 years to get basically back up to about equal par after 10 years of the coalition. So let's start moving forward. Let us move forward with you, and let's make a better Australia.
One of the key core values of Fusion is inclusivity. We need to be incorporating the voice of each and every one of you into what we're throwing into Parliament. We can't expect one of these two major parties to be doing that, because they've not done it yet. We've had them in, we've had the Nationals here for 60 years in Cowper, and we haven't had enough change. We still have 780 homeless people here. We still have houses empty, homes burnt, cars trashed. We still have one of the highest rates of youth crime and injustice in the country at the moment here. This is an endemic. We need to have the entirety of the country to band together and start selecting some of these smaller parties that have actually got a voice. At Infusion, we have scientific research and evidentiary-based policies that we are planning to introduce. We're not sitting here and we're not repeating rhetoric that we're hearing from all over the place. We plan to implement structures and strategies to bring peace and trust back to social media, back to mainstream media. We call ourselves the grassroots platform because we are a group of 5 smaller platforms across the country that aims to come as one and be that one voice for us. If I get elected, I aim to be that thorn in the side of these two main parties. I aim to be the voice for each and every one of you to say, no, this is not what we want. This is what you want. This is my goal as the federal member, as the local member. If you vote for Geoff Marlow, vote Fusion. Thank you, guys. Let's bring the power back to the people.
I know I'm young. I'm sure a lot of you think I don't have what it takes. But I've lived here my whole life. My family goes back over 5 generations in this area, and I have listened to the people in this community. I know what needs to be done, and I don't have anyone paying me off or anything, as you can probably see. I'm just me, and I just want to do what's right for the people in this community. So please, give me a chance.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to congratulate you for caring enough about your community to attend and ask some very thoughtful questions. It's really good to see that there are people out there that actually care and think about the future of our society. So a round of applause for all of you. And big thank you to Greg and his team for organising this.
And a round of applause for Rob for actually keeping us all in line.
It's very easy to keep things on track. Thank you all. I'm sure all of you have more things that you need to do. It's probably not the end of your evening, unfortunately. If it is, fantastic. And I hope that you learned something this evening, and if you were undecided, I hope to help you all decide. Thank you, and good night.
That's